The police officers stepped into the bright glass lobby just as dozens of employees turned to watch. A little girl clung tightly to her father's hand, her eyes wide with fear. Across from them stood the powerful CEO of one of the city's fastest-growing companies, pointing toward the exhausted-looking single dad with complete confidence. She believed he was a fraud. She believed he was lying. She believed he had somehow sneaked into the executive floor pretending to belong there. What happened next would leave the entire company speechless. Before we begin, if you believe kindness matters more than appearances and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, comment below where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs inspiration, and subscribe to Single Dad Empire for more emotional and unforgettable stories. The morning sun poured across downtown skyscrapers as 40-year-old Weston Hale stepped off a crowded city bus holding the hand of his 8-year-old daughter, Marin. Most people who passed them never looked twice. Weston wore faded jeans, worn-out sneakers, and a simple gray shirt that had clearly seen better days. His dark hair needed a trim, and the circles beneath his eyes revealed years of sleepless nights. But what strangers could never see was the story hidden behind those tired eyes. 5 years earlier, Weston had lost his wife during a sudden medical emergency. In a single night, he had become both father and mother to a grieving little girl. Every dream he once had was pushed aside. Every ambition became secondary. His entire world became Marin. He worked multiple consulting jobs from home, accepted projects late into the night, skipped vacations, ignored luxuries, and sacrificed nearly everything so his daughter could grow up feeling loved and protected. Few people knew that years ago, before tragedy changed everything, Weston had helped launch a technology company with his college friend, Rowan Mercer. Together they had built the foundation of what would eventually become one of the region's most successful businesses. But after his wife's death, Weston stepped away completely. He no longer attended meetings. He no longer appeared at company events. He refused interviews. He quietly disappeared from public view. What remained hidden was one critical detail. Weston still owned 50% of the company. A fact known only to a handful of people. That morning, Rowan had finally convinced him to visit headquarters for the first time in years. The board wanted to discuss a major expansion project. Weston reluctantly agreed. Since Marin's school was closed for teacher training day, he brought her along. Neither of them expected the day to become unforgettable. The company headquarters towered above the city like a monument to success. Employees hurried through revolving doors carrying expensive laptops and designer coffee cups. Marin looked up at the building with wonder. Weston smiled softly. For the first time in years, he felt a strange mix of nostalgia and uncertainty. Inside the lobby, they approached the reception desk. The receptionist politely asked for identification. After hearing his name, her eyes widened slightly. She immediately called upstairs. Moments later she received confirmation and provided visitor badges. Everything seemed normal. Until the CEO arrived. Her name was Vivian Cross. At 38 years old, she had become one of the youngest CEOs in the industry. Brilliant, ambitious, and fiercely protective of the company's image, she had earned respect through hard work and determination. But she also carried a dangerous weakness. She judged people quickly. As she crossed the lobby, she noticed Weston and Marin near the elevators. She saw his worn clothes. She saw the old backpack hanging from his shoulder. She saw a man who looked nothing like the wealthy executives she was accustomed to meeting. When she overheard him mentioning a board meeting, suspicion immediately formed. Vivian believed he was attempting some elaborate deception. Without taking time to verify the facts, she confronted him publicly. Employees stopped walking. Conversations ended. Everyone watched. Weston remained calm. Marin squeezed his hand. Vivian questioned his presence and demanded proof of his authority. When Weston quietly explained that he was expected upstairs, she became even more convinced he was lying. The situation escalated quickly. Within minutes, security was called. Then the police. The lobby transformed into a stage for humiliation. Employees whispered. Some recorded videos. Others exchanged uncomfortable glances. Weston could have revealed everything immediately. He could have announced who he was. He could have ended the misunderstanding in seconds. Instead, he remained patient. Years of raising a daughter alone had taught him something valuable. Pride rarely solves problems. Maren looked up at him nervously. He simply smiled and reassured her with a gentle nod. When the police officers arrived, the atmosphere became painfully tense. Vivian confidently explained that an unauthorized individual was claiming access to executive meetings. The officers approached Weston respectfully and requested identification. He calmly handed over his driver's license. One officer studied the name. His expression changed instantly. The officer glanced at his partner. Then back at Weston. Suddenly, both men appeared confused. Before anyone could understand why, another elevator opened. Rowan Mercer stepped into the lobby. The company's co-founder and chairman rarely appeared unannounced. His arrival alone was enough to silence the room. When Rowan saw the scene unfolding, his face turned pale. He quickly crossed the lobby. Employees expected him to support the CEO. Instead, he walked directly toward Weston. Then he did something nobody anticipated. He apologized. In front of everyone. The entire lobby froze. Vivian stared in disbelief. The police officers exchanged looks. Employees struggled to process what they were witnessing. Rowan explained that Weston Hale was not only expected at the meeting. He was one of the company's original founders. More importantly, he owned 50% of the organization. The words landed like thunder. A collective gasp swept through the room. Several employees nearly dropped their phones. Others looked at Weston as though seeing him for the first time. The tired single father standing beside a little girl wasn't an imposter. He wasn't a fraud. He wasn't pretending to belong. He literally owned half the company. Vivian's face lost all color. The realization hit her harder than anyone else. Every assumption she had made. Every accusation she had delivered. Every judgment based on appearance. Had been completely wrong. The lobby remained silent as Rowan explained Weston's history. He spoke about the sacrifices Weston had made after losing his wife. He spoke about the nights spent building the company from a tiny apartment years earlier. He spoke about how Weston stepped away from business leadership not because he lacked commitment, but because his daughter needed him more than any boardroom ever could. Many employees found themselves unexpectedly emotional. For years they had admired successful executives. But now they were witnessing something different. A man who had chosen family over wealth. A father who placed love above status. A parent who quietly sacrificed recognition to keep a little girl safe and happy. Maren looked proudly at her father. The same father who packed her lunches. Helped with homework. Attended every school event. Read bedtime stories. And never once complained about the hardships they faced. At that moment, she didn't see a company owner. She saw her hero. Vivian approached Weston with tears forming in her eyes. The confidence she usually carried had vanished. For perhaps the first time in years, she truly understood the consequences of judging someone based solely on appearances. Weston listened as she offered a sincere apology. He could have demanded consequences. He could have embarrassed her publicly. He could have used his authority to retaliate. Instead, he surprised everyone again. He accepted her apology. Not because the situation didn't hurt. But because he understood that mistakes can become lessons. And lessons can change lives. Over the following months, something remarkable happened. Vivian transformed her leadership approach. She introduced new programs promoting empathy, inclusion, and respect throughout the company. Employees received training focused on eliminating bias and assumptions. The corporate culture slowly changed. People became more thoughtful, more compassionate, more human. And much of that transformation traced back to one unforgettable morning in the lobby. Weston remained largely out of the spotlight. That never changed. He continued attending only essential meetings. He continued putting Marin first. But his story spread throughout the organization. New employees heard about the single dad who owned half the company yet rode the city bus. The father who chose humility over ego. The man who answered humiliation with grace. Years later, employees would still tell the story. Not because of the money. Not because of the ownership stake. But because it reminded them of something important. You never truly know someone's story. The person standing in worn shoes may carry extraordinary strength. The quiet parent sitting beside a child may have overcome unimaginable challenges. And the individual society overlooks may possess more character than anyone in the room. Before we reach the end, I have a special request. Comment, kindness sees beyond appearances, if you believe people should be judged by their character, not their clothing, job title, or social status. As the sun set that evening, Weston and Marin left the building together. No cameras followed them. No reporters waited outside. Just a father and his daughter walking toward a bus stop beneath a golden sky. Marin slipped her hand into his. Weston smiled. For him, the most valuable thing he owned was never the company. It was the little girl beside him. And that was worth more than any fortune. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. Your support helps more people discover these powerful stories of hope, forgiveness, and family. And don't forget to subscribe to Single Dad Empire for more emotional journeys that remind us what truly matters in life. Because sometimes the richest people in the world are the ones whose wealth cannot be measured by money at all.